Okay, well, the first blush of spring is past, so it's out with the beautiful tulips that were back here. Pretty soon, it's going to be out with things like those gorgeous, it is going to break my heart a little bit, those pansies and violas in my saucer planting. It's going to be out with those. I am going to be doing a little bit of trimming back here, but mostly it's about what is going to happen after the cool season things are gone, because I still want to infuse this back space with this gorgeous red color, and so I'm going to have to do that with different kinds of plantings. And we're going to talk about those today. So what do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, I think we're finally ready. Stuart's been coughing, I've been sneezing, then Stuart started yawning, but I think we're ready for this next segment. And this, this is a tip. When you're growing geraniums, I think because to me they're so special that it's important to take that extra time to really groom them and groom them correctly. Now it might seem, okay, well Linda, what do? You just deadhead them and you pull off any dead foliage. But I really think it matters how you deadhead them and how you remove foliage. So look here, this is a long stem, and I'm not just going to pinch it off right here with some snips, because what would happen then is I would have this dead stem of that geranium there marring what the entire plant looked like. Instead, I took it all the way back to the stem itself, and did you hear that satisfying kind of crunching noise?
Snap,
yeah. Yeah, okay, here, let's do that again. I've got another dead one. Ah,
It does.
It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for us, but it immediately improves the look of the plant. And I'm taking it all the way down to the stem. Now, obviously, I want to deadhead it because we want more of those blooms to keep on coming. The one bad thing about having really good rain is that it does unnumber on your geranium blooms. So after I do this, and look here, I've also got some dead foliage down in here, some dead leaves. I'm going to take them back all the way to the stem. If I've got any that are yellowing or flopping, this one might turn yellow pretty soon, then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it all the way back to the stem. Here's another one. Like I say, it doesn't take much in a garden-inspired living world. Okay, here's another one. Now, sometimes you might ask, okay, Linda, you've got some, and they're like half done, but the other half isn't done. So in that case, sometimes what I will do, these are a little bit too damp and too moist to do this, but if the flower is dry, then I just come in and I pinch off the dead blooms. Actually, that looks kind of pretty, even with them gone. But they will crisp off pretty easily if the flower isn't really hydrated. That way I still have the benefit and the beauty of the remaining petals that weren't marred by the rain. So over here, I've got it again. I'll take off this one. You can tell we had lots of heavy rain. Now, what I'm pleased about is I've got lots of buds that are following up. Okay, so even though these blooms are done and finished, I've got blooms in the wake. I am still going to fertilize these after the next rain because I want those blooms to keep on pumping as long as possible. Now, I don't anticipate that these flowers, that these geraniums are going to look this good all summer long. It would amaze me if they were. Partly because we'll probably have a month of 100+ degree temperatures. Also because they seem to be prone to budworms, even though I keep on the lookout for them. So what I anticipate is that I will just try to keep them alive for the duration of the summer. I will keep feeding them when it's not too hot, and then I will just anticipate a second flush of beautiful bloom in the fall when they come back into their full glory. I've got a lot of geraniums, so this is going to take some time, but it's a really satisfying thing to do in the cool of the morning. I've got some over here as well on this tiered plant stand. And here is an example of how there's I've got kind of some wind-blown leaves. The size is almost a little too overgrown. They have captured the wind and they look a little ratted and tatted. I think that's an official horticultural term. And so I'm going to clean this one up as well. I've got some white ones in the front. And while I'm doing this, and because I still have lots of beautiful buds and blooms, I'm going to check to see if I see any evidence of budworm. And over here I don't see any evidence of budworm. It's a little early for them yet. I also don't see evidence of any other kinds of pest. But sometimes I like to remove these larger droopy leaves just because it improves the appearance of the plant. It will force new growth. And overall, I think it will be a happier plant. Now, all of the plants that I am going to replace this red pop of color with after the geraniums start to go south, all of them have to be extremely heat and drought and sun tolerant. So all of the plants that I have selected fall into that category, starting with saucy red salvia. This is a southern living plant. And it just is a little bit more, it's like your traditional tiny little cushion salvia, but on steroids. I just got several gallons of this and I'm going to be putting them, well, let's just say I'm going to be putting them somewhere. I can't decide whether or not to put them in the ground, kind of in a great big red mass like that, or if I want to put them in pots. So that's my question of the day. If you were me, what would you do? A big container planting or in the ground? What might help to determine my ultimate decision is whether or not I have a pot big enough to accommodate them all. Okay, so it's been a while since I've done an outfit of the day for what it's worth, but my sunglasses, these have quickly become one of my new fave pairs. They were very inexpensive. I got them online, and I'll try to put a link below. I think I got them online. My farmer sleeves. It's time to bring back the farmer sleeves on those days when I don't have on a long sleeve shirt. These are the ones that in the past Stuart thought looked like tattoos. And when he
used
first
to walk up and be like,
yeah,
sleeves?
you thought, oh, those, yeah, Linda's got her arms tattooed. Okay, now I wanted to show you this outfit today primarily because I wanted to share with you these t-shirts. I absolutely love them. They're boat neck, which I think is a very flattering line if you're somebody like me and you have extremely broad shoulders. I got these online, and this came in a 3-pack. It came in this kind of oatmeal color. They've got 3/4 length sleeves. It also came in a black and white stripe, which is probably my favorite. And I think I also got it in black. Very inexpensive, very, very comfortable. They look great after you wash them. So anyhow, I'll try to put a link to those below. My belt, I think, is years ago from Nordstrom Rack. My breeches, I feel pretty certain were thrifted. If not, they might be Banana Republic. I'm not sure. But whichever the case, they are very, very old. And then, of course, I've got some high C boots on because it's all about working in the garden. And then I've got some of my Cool Jobs gloves. My earrings, I don't remember where I got my earrings. I've had these earrings forever. So there you go. For what it's worth, there's my outfit of the day. Oh no, did we lose? Oh, there he is. There he is. Trying to help.
Hey guys,
oh my gosh, that is one big worm. That is one big worm. Oh my gosh. Okay, that is a sign of some healthy soil. Now let's see what it does. Come. Oh. Okay. What are you gonna do? It's a decision point for you, Mr. Worm. Oh, looky there. Okay. This is why worms are so important in your landscape, because they aerate your soil, even really heavy clay soil like mine. See how it's burrowing? And then, of course, it's also pooping along the way, creating worm castings.
Yeah, that was cool, though.
Too bad little Clara isn't here to see that. She would have been absolutely fascinated. Okay, I got a number of questions about this elephant bush plant. I've got a really large container of it here. And Stuart, if you just gently turn around, you can see there's a great big rectangular pot of it on the table underneath
Oh, over
the
there. I
windows.
was looking on the steps.
Yeah, on the steps underneath the windows. Now this can handle full sun. It is a succulent, so it's drought tolerant, though I do keep an eye on it because it will dry out. And it's very easy to take cuttings from because you can just pinch off. Well, maybe not so easily. I needed, maybe in this case, everything's so hydrated, I needed some scissors to do that. But I could pinch this off and I could just stick it in the ground and it would grow. Now, this is not cold hardy, so you have to bring it in, but this is elephant bush, and there's the answer to that question. The other question I got is, Linda, why do I have these little brooms hanging here? And this belonged to my mom. My second mom, she used to have it hanging in her garden. And it helps me do things like I get all of this cedar debris that the trees drop after winds, after rains, whatever. And this is a good little tool for me. I can sweep off my cushions, I can sweep off my chairs, I can sweep off the patio. And that's why I have it out here. And just like I love that satisfying sound of the snap of the dead flower head off of the geranium plant, I really like the sound of a whisk broom.
What are you looking for, kitty?
Severus Snape.
Catnip? Is that where she's going?
Perfect.
She says, Miss Linda keeps a fresh supply of my good stuff.
Yes. At all times. Now saunter across to the next. Now, what I noticed, okay, let's see if she's going to do this. So yesterday I noticed that she was on the window box because there's catnip in the window box. Let's see if she goes up there. It's that chartreuse on the loose.
Where'd she go? Oh, there she is.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, it's a he? Now I know.
It's a he.
Okay, now I know.
Oh, look there. Okay, so now one of the hardest things about gardening, I think, is when, in order to prepare for the next season, which for us is going to be a very hot season, you sometimes have to sacrifice things that still look really good in order to get the other things that come next, like this red verbena, like these geranium red sun patiens, established before the heat. And in my case, I also want them to take advantage and really settle in with the coming rains that we're going to have for the remainder of the week. So what's the sacrifice? Well, the sacrifice is these petunias still, I say petunias, pansies, excuse me, still look really, really good. And I'm going to have to pull them out. Now, I might wait till this evening so I can enjoy them just a little bit more. I'll also groom them. So, Stuart, maybe we can get a really good picture of this composition before we deconstruct it. Sometimes I will take the pansies themselves and I will just take them out in clumps, and then I will put them in a bowl with water and bring them inside to enjoy them for just a little bit longer. But I'm kind of ready to move on to the next season. Still, I'm going to groom these. We'll get some pictures. And then when these come out, in will go some red verbena. This is Endurascape Red. This is a Southern Living plant. These came in the mail, and I don't know, they just kind of suffered a little bit in the mail. But I'm not worried about that. I'm going to give them a good feed. With heat, with rain, they'll settle right in, and I'm not going to hesitate to cut them back really, really hard. Those will trail over the edge. What will remain is obviously the boxwood. These sweet coral bells, the foliage will remain, even though pretty soon these darling little flowers will expire. Stuart, can we get a close-up on those? Because this is probably one of my favorite things this spring. And then I've got an oxalis that is going a little bit mad in here. It's going a little bit crazy. So I will remove these things in about this third of the container. This will come out. In will go that beautiful verbena, and then probably also a few of these. What is the variety? It's a Sun Patient Compact Electric Orange. But why I love them is because, look here, they are almost exactly the color of these geraniums, that geranium red, my favorite color back here in the backyard. And so this will take the place of these geraniums when it gets too hot for them to bloom. I got a whole flat of them at Bricks. And by the way, you guys are going to want to pay attention to what's coming up this weekend, because I'm going to shop for all of my favorite annuals. These guys are tough. They are proven. They really can take the heat and can't be beat. So make sure that you stay tuned this Saturday, and I will give you my whole list, the Dirty Dozen, my whole list of plants that are annuals that can really handle a summer even as brutal as our Oklahoma summer on the prairie. Okay, here's a topiary tip. After all of that rain, I have buckets of this really precious rainwater. Now I could dump it all into the garden beds, and ultimately I probably will. But before I do so, this is what I like to do. This is the best way to water a topiary. And that's take your topiary and completely submerge it in water. It was easier to do before the level of this got so low or got too low. And then you're going to water it and just really let it saturate, let it soak until you no longer see any bubbles coming from the surface of the dirt of the pot, or in this case, the gravel of the pot. That way you know it's been completely moistened, no air bubbles in there, and it will really, really flourish. So that's what I like to do with the remaining rainwater. But I don't just ever throw it out, because rain is precious here, and I will always take it. And I will always make sure that I use it in some fashion, one way or another, in the garden.
And 3, 2.
And one more topiary tip, as if you needed a reminder. I've said this 1,000,001 times, and that is, if you grow myrtle topiary, myrtle compacta, never, ever, ever let them dry out, especially when you're moving them back out into the sun. These they were inside, I brought them out, they're now in a semi-shaded area, but ultimately they will be in full sun, where they are likely to dry out that much more quickly, especially with these winds. So I will check on them every single day, sometimes twice a day, to make sure that they never, ever, ever dry out. Okay, so I have geraniums everywhere, and forgive me, I am sucking on a cough drop because Stuart had a coughing fit and I just had a coughing fit. Something is in the air, and the only way I cannot cough is to have a cough drop in my mouth, so forgive me. So what I wanted to show you over here is that finally I did it, and look at these little darlings. These are tiny little boxwood basils that I pricked out from the front beds, because how darling will it be to have little boxwood basil balls in these charming, charming containers from Carolina Elizabeth. And I'll try to put her Instagram page in the description box, but I believe it's under Carolina Elizabeth, and she does sell these. She sells some other things. She's a brilliant artist, and I will try to put that link too. But won't those be dear? And I've got them covered with a cloche, because I want to keep those nefarious squirrels out of the way. But they will make darling little herbal topiaries. But speaking of topiaries, I promised to show you how I was going to prune the last.
Linda, look at those. The
backlight on those flat on the. All
Isn't it gorgeous? And so, yeah, some of you asked if this was a Platinum Beauty Lamandra. And indeed it is. It is not one from last year because this is a smaller one. This is just a gallon size because a larger one wouldn't fit in this pot. But it is beautiful. And you know what I love about it, you guys? You know, for a while, one of the things I remember most about my second mom in her garden was that she would have that classic combo of some kind of Dracaena, and then there would be a geranium, and then there would be some kind of ivy crawling out of the bottom of it. That was just a classic combo. Well, I love this because it's reminiscent of that Dracaena, though I think it's far more beautiful. And the red, of course, reminds me of her, and it just reminds me of that composition that she used to have on our back steps all of the time. But I digress. So these are the little topiaries that I started last year. Do you remember these, Stuart? And these were from just some, I can't remember if they were end of the year sale boxwoods or whatever, but they had some projecting stems. And last year I started the shape, and this year I would say I would call these a full-blown topiary. Now, they're not necessarily in their ugly teenager stage anymore. Now, unlike most of the topiary that I have in the front, the large topiary, they have just one stem. This one actually has multiple stems. It's got 3 stems, 3, maybe even 4 stems that form the ball on the top. But I don't care because the effect is the same, and it enabled this topiary to fill out on top in that second poodle ball that much more quickly. And here's another one. So topiary can be expensive, but I don't think these were any more than $4, at the most $6. So a $6 topiary, that's a pretty good thing. You do have to put in some time, attention, and patience, but in that case, that definitely pays off. So let's go over here. And doesn't all of this boxwood green topiary, thank you, Stuart, look beautiful with this red? I absolutely love it. So this one is like the others. It's just fluffy, and I'm just going to prune it. Again, not worrying too much if I make some errant cuts. I've said it before and I'll say it again. A lot of times, whether or not something looks like a really beautiful ball is not so much what's at the top, but how you shape the bottom and the amount of negative space there is between the bottom of the plant and the top of the pot. And these are just, you know, these are just regular scissors. I tend to use my Joyce Chen red-handled pruners on my myrtle topiary, but on these, a pair of scissors does just fine. In fact, a little bit better because these are a little bit, well, they can handle a little bit thicker of a stem. Yeah, they're just a little tougher. And you'll see that I'm not worrying about having a tarp or anything underneath this. I probably should have, but this whole area is going to get a good grooming after all the wind. Might even wait on that really good grooming till after the rest of the rain comes in this week. Somebody's trying to get hold of me, Stuart. You know, I know a lot of times I do try to come out here with, without my phone.
I can attest to that.
Yes, because Stuart tries to reach me. But when you have kids,
I'm always happy when you come out here without it.
yeah. But when you have kids, I don't know. I just feel more secure when I have it. Even if your kids are older. So funny story, back when I was still doing consulting, I was working on a garden in Nichols Hills, a neighborhood nearby, and we were outside, and all of a sudden I heard my son Johnny in Singapore talking out of my back pocket. And It was the most strange sensation ever. And what I realized was that somehow I had butt dialed on Messenger. I didn't even know at that time that on Messenger you could make Skype type calls, FaceTime type calls. And all of a sudden he was it was a strange sensation, but a happy event, because then I learned that I could talk to him on the Messenger app on a weekly basis.
It's the voice of God.
Yes, yeah, you never know. You just never, ever know. So many pleasant surprises in the garden.
That guy's gonna stick it. What are you
Okay,
gonna
so
do with
down.
him?
Okay, yeah, so that guy, what am I going to do? Should he stay or should he go? Right now, he is going to stay. But all of these guys down here are going to go. And again, I don't worry too much if I make a bad cut. Sometimes it's easier to use your hands. What I'm mostly trying to do is, just like I wanted negative space between the bottom of the pot, and I need to put a little top dressing on there. It looks like some of that dirt has washed away. The bottom of the pot and the bottom of the ball, I want to do the same here. I want to create some negative space between the top of the ball, of the lower ball, and the bottom of the top ball. So I can do that by kind of just judiciously removing some individual leaves. We had, from the windstorm the other night, a big tree down in the alley. And so if you hear it, let's show them the big crane that's in the alley right now.
Is that the one that we were here and saw happen? Or is
I think. Oh, no, not that one. This was another. There are always trees falling. There are always trees falling. This is another one from the other day. So see here, Stuart, I was asking, should I take that whole one off? But then that leaves a hole on that side. But what I can do is I can remove some of the lower leaves on that.
It'll fill in.
And it will fill in. Pretty soon it will start filling in on this side. And from a distance it should look just fine. And I already have the bottom ball established. So to me, it kind of already looks like a topiary. And by the way, I'll be doing this, I'll feed it, and I will be doing this all summer long. The more you clip, the more growth is forced out, even in the summer. Now, the new foliage will be slower in coming on than it is in the spring, but it will come on nevertheless, especially if I feed it and I encourage it. So there you go. Sometimes after I put it in place, I'll see where I've kind of missed something or I need to take off a little bit more, but that's all part of the fun. So there you go. I promised to shape number 3 for you, and indeed I have, and it'll be very happy here on the plant stand, and I love the way this whole thing looks together. So mission accomplished. Okay, well, pretty quickly, these violas, they're going to be done. You can see here that I put them into a plastic pot, and that plastic pot I just set into this larger pot. And it looks, see right here, this is something to check. It looks right here that I've got a drainage issue. So I'll take this secondary pot out. And I will do whatever I need to do, because you want to make sure that your containers always have good drainage. So I will do that right now. I can do that just with my finger. And this is an argument for putting some loose debris or something at the bottom of a pot before you pot it up. Now, let's see, what can I use for some loose debris? Aha. We weren't done with them yet. So I'm just going to,
Truly recycling the garden.
yes, I'm just going to pack those down in there. I might have a little bit more debris in here. Now, some people would even use some of the empty containers, empty plastic containers, but I prefer that all of the debris that I put in the bottom of my pots be organic. So here I've got kind of a nice blend of nitrogen in the flowers, and then here are some boxwood clippings. So I've got a little bit of carbon there. And over time, that will decompose and break down, unlike these plastic pots. So one time, here's a story. One time I did this. I don't even care if there's a little paper in there. One time I did this, and I had some boxwood clippings in there. And one of them just decided that life has a will. Life will not be denied. And one of those boxwood clippings actually rooted and started a little plant. So it's, you know, it must have had just the right environment. So I am going to put a little bit of dirt here on top of this, some good quality potting soil. And then I'm going to do one terracotta container of nothing but these sun patiens. And I think it'll be beautiful. Every time I do this monoculture kind of thing, all one plant in a pot rather than a variety of plants, I think of Klaus Dalby, my friend in Denmark, who is one of the most accomplished gardeners, garden designers of them all, and he uses this to such great effect in so many of the displays, the floral displays that he stages in his garden. So when we come back, I'll have a pot of fresh soil. Smile, you're on camera. Okay, so you guys have probably seen this. This is kind of a cheat on this technique where you put the plants in like this in their pot, and then you take the potting soil and you fill in the gaps around them. Do one more over here. Oh, actually, I want to leave that in there. I'll do this.
Just said it.
Yeah, I know, I just said it too. And then, yeah, like I say, it would have been just as easy for me to take them out of the pots, but then I couldn't demonstrate what this technique is.
True. You did it again.
I did it again. See?
Yeah.
I'm not focused, people. I am not focused. I am not
You got some good habits.
focused.
You got some habits. They're good.
Okay, let me go get a little bit more dirt. Let me snap. Okay, now this really wasn't a very good example of this technique, but what you do is then you fill in dirt all around it. It's actually a much more effective technique if you're using, if you're doing a large planter and larger plants than this. But just so you'll get the idea, you've probably seen this before. Ain't rocket science. Okay, so then you just compress the soil. You take the pot out. See there? Look, there's a perfect template for this electric orange impatient. Just rough up the root ball a little bit, not very much. And look at how it just tucks beautifully in there. Do the same thing here. Looky there. Look at that beautiful hole, that beautiful void. Rough it up a little bit. Stick it in there. These aren't really very pot bound. Do the same thing over here. Look at that. There is great satisfaction. I'm getting all sorts of satisfaction out of very strange and simple things today in this Wednesday walkabout. This red-inspired backyard walkabout. Okay, there you can see it again. Perfect little template, stick that in there. And then, Stuart, I bet you I can find some kind of container around here that probably has some leftover rainwater in it with which I will water this beautiful plant. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Coughs, noisy cranes, trucks, and all. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you next time.